In this presentation, we are going to look into Resolve's capability as an automation orchestrator. I'm Anish Mathai. I'm a principal consultant at Resolve Systems. And the process that I'm going to take you through is one that of a journal entry process. So let's dive right into the context. One of our customers, who is an MSP, was into automating the accounting processes of one of its client, and since it was an MSP, it offers similar services to multiple clients. Now in this particular context, you had a client which had a process, but it was very loosely tied to each other, which means it was very manual intensive. People would go and enter the data in an Excel sheet, and then they would go and trigger a job, and it would result into an output which would lie there for some time, and someone else would go and do the next step. Um, what we also notice is that all these individuals who get into the system would all use the same login password. So there was no ability to audit the system. There was no single point of control in terms of manager of manager. These were the challenges. But what came to our mind very early was that although we could fix all these tools and build a process, the challenge in front of us was that of cost. Uh, since they were an MSP, they had to provide their services at a cost that was both viable and also scalable. So what we did was that if you really think of the box that you see in front of you, it consists of tools. It did consist of a highly manual intensive process, and it also consists of a target system, SAP in this particular case. So the first thing we did as a value proposition towards a solution was in terms of splitting the tools out and then come with another component known as your process orchestrator, which could build processes. And these two was what we call as a platform. And using this platform, we could offer services or automation services to not just one deal, but even to multiple deals. So the point here is that you need to build a set of reusable tools. You need to build the capability to build in business processes, and you need to make it scalable to more than one deal to keep your cost at a bare minimum. So let's see what this particular platform is. At the lowmost level, if you go above the level of the infrastructure, you got certain tools, and there are two key tools in this particular platform. One being ServiceNow, which is widely known as a very popular ITSM tool, basically a workflow engine with a lot of process my process processing abilities in terms of approval, notification, and all those good things. We also had Resolve both as an integrator with third-party tools, building gateways and talking to these third-party tools. Apart from that, Resolve also comes with the orchestrator facility wherein you could create a process, orchestrate it, and automate it. So using this as a launching pad, we went ahead and defined the journal entry process. This is for journal entry, but you could design any other process for any other use case. What you notice here is that there is a lot of integration with third-party tools. So let me just go through the process. First and foremost, you could have someone send out an email with an attachment of a template. Template is basically a collection of journal entries. I can show one to you at a later point, but these would be sent to you. And so why don't I do it right away as a demo? I have composed an email, and that's my email. I have a particular mailbox that I'm targeting with a specific subject line, and that's going to be my filter. And subsequently I also have an attachment. So let me go ahead and send this out, and hopefully the resolve will pick it up and create a request entity which would have multiple stages as it goes from open stage to close resolved. The next step would be there would be a manual verification of that particular record, in terms of does it have all the records, all the documents, and all those eyeball checks. Subsequently, in step 3, we would do an template extraction where we extract the template. Template, as I said, is a placeholder for journal entries, which consists of multiple line items, which could be a credit line item or a debit line item. They would be validated against some master database, which would contain master records. And so let's just pause at step number 4 and let's just catch up with what's happening behind in Resolve. So as you saw, you could we triggered an email, and that has triggered this particular worksheet. Worksheet is basically a runtime details of that particular runbook. So there was a runbook by this name that was triggered, and it has created an RITM for us known as 886086. So let's see if we have that opened up. No, we don't. Okay, let's open that particular link. So that's my portal to sign into. This is typically what an agent would use as they make entries and process journal entries. So it creates a requested item that is 886086. That's what we saw here, 886086. And let me click it. And I need to, at this point, based on what we saw thus far, in step 2, I need to manually verify it and then of course trigger the template extraction. So let me do that. I would first need to attach that template to this particular request item. I would also need to assign an owner to this. So let me pick an owner who would do the eyeball verification. Let me update it. Okay, and if I come back to my catalog task, I would see a task open for manual validation. So let me go ahead and validate it myself. The supporting documents are all there and all the entries are good. And so I'm updating my task, and I'm even closing that particular task. So now when I return back to my RITM or my request record, I would see that it is ready for template extraction. Okay. If I come down and see my control task, I did close that particular manual validation. So I'm going to step number 3. So let me click on get template data. So at this point, the platform would have Resolve do the template extraction, and you can see that in your notes here. Okay, let's just go back under the hood and see what's happened thus far. Let's talk about this process known as email ingestion. Okay, now as I told you, there's a run book which consists of multiple smaller tasks which are knit together, and there are conditions put based on that the control would go either this way or that way. Okay, talking about email EWS gateway. In the gateway, we define a gateway and we got multiple filters like listeners on a particular node, and these filters would have a condition, and it would also mention the runbook that would get executed, and that's why you saw this particular runbook getting executed here. Okay, the runbook was here. Okay, the same one. I want to also talk about, okay, let me come to the gateway since we are on that particular topic. Now, in Resolve, we have something like a local, it could be a local agent or it could be a remote agent, most likely a remote agent, which could act as a gateway. And you can configure your gateway. In this particular case, there's a remote gateway, remote known as PHY, RS Remote PHY, which is acting as an EWS gateway with some credentials. We need to pass on the URL and some credentials. Similarly, the same RS Remote is acting like a ServiceNow gateway with having given some credentials. There's also the worker thread is turned on, which bumps up the scalability for Resolve in terms of processing multiple requests from that particular gateway in parallel. So I could have multiple third-party integrators built onto the same gateway. Okay, so coming back to our process, let's see where we are. So here the template extraction has been done, and now I can go ahead and validate. So that will be step number 4. If you look at our process, I did the template extraction followed by the validation. And once validation is done, there's a manual step of approving the request item. So let me go back to my, so the validation is done. And if I scroll down, I can see the approvers assigned to this particular request item, and there are 4 of them. Let me pick one of them and let me approve it. And if I go back to my RITM, go and view those four approvers, you would see that since one of them is approved, the other one is no more needing any approval. So at this time, if I go back to if I see my notes, I would see that there's a posting already done. Master CSV file has been posted successfully for SAP validation, which means that in my process, after I did step number 5, step number 6 was automatically invoked, and now the CSV file would be posted into my SFTP server. SAP would read it and then need to do some validation and come back and post it. Now, I'm not sure, that will take a couple of minutes. So I don't want to wait for that. So that was my template extraction, and then the outbound posting is still going on, and that's why you see this process is still not complete. Okay, but if we wait for a couple of minutes, you would go ahead, you would see it going ahead and getting a response and a feedback, and then I would go ahead and post my associated documents into a document storage, and that triggers an SAP to validate it and then again provide a feedback. So you post something and you get a feedback, and subsequently I would, if there is success, I would go and update the RITM, and that would end the particular process. So let me just see the process. Okay, so outbound is still taking, so I'll just stop at this particular point. I don't want to take it any further from here. Okay, so the lesson that you learned from this whole exercise is, in any offering in a MSP context, we need to offer you need to offer a solution which is wherein you provide some reusable set of tools and processes so that they can be reused for multiple deals. It's not one size fits all, but it is ability to tweak and adapt it to make it specific to the business needs, but also with the ability to make it scalable. Okay, and that helped us in this particular deal in not just satisfying this particular customer, but also for other clients of this particular customer. Okay, so thank you for your attention. Bye.